Welcome back to Combat Recapped. Here are the craziest knockouts in women's UFC history. Now first on our list is Jessica Andrade. Andrade's most recent victory, a submission victory over Amanda Lemos, was the first and only standing arm triangle choke ever to be recorded in the women's UFC, which is a significant achievement for her. So going back to 2018 at UFC 228, Jessica, who was better recognized for her skills in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, defeated Karolina Kowalkiewicz via KO. Jessica Andrade has incredible strength for someone so small and has been compared to Wanderlei Silva. Going forward into the fight at the first round, Jessica Andrade delivered a jaw punch to Kowalkiewicz, and just before she ever touched the ground, the punch was thrown squarely through the canvas and Kowalkiewicz was knocked out. She took enough time to gather herself after being visibly shaken and cementing Andrade's reputation as one of the strongest punchers and most dangerous women in the women's drawweight division. Next up is Valentina Shevchenko. For good reason, Valentina is regarded as one of the top female fighters in the world right now. And in 2019, against the competitive Jessica I, Valentina executed one of the most devastating head kicks in history. Valentina shocked the world by brutally knocking Jessica out in the second round of their women's flyweight championship match at UFC 238 with a kick to the side of her head. As they examined each other briefly, let her guard down in an apparent attempt to launch an attack, but Shevchenko pounced on her, given that she's a world-class striker. She threw a wonderfully timed head kick that sent Jessica straight to the ground, and the referee ran to see how Jessica was doing, confirming Valentina's position as one of the world's top strikers according to her weight. After her most recent loss against Amanda Nunes, the Kyrgyzstan-Peruvian fighter is now on an 8-fight winning streak. Before the duo retire, it has been suggested that she challenged the Brazilian one last time. Next up is Irene Aldana. Irene Aldana is a fighter from Mexico who is best characterized as a journeyman. But knocking out Ketlen Vieira at UFC 245 in 2019 went down as one of the most savage ever delivered in a women's UFC fight. Aldana stepped to Vieira in the opening round and delivered a picture-perfect left hook that knocked the Brazilian down. The blow caused the top-ranked competitor to sit up and take notice as it was felt across the women's division. As Vieira prepared to strike, Aldana swooped in and delivered one of the knockouts of the year with such force that we fully anticipated Vieira would have suffered at the very least a fractured jaw. Now let's talk about Amanda Nunes. The MMA community as a whole was tremendously excited when Amanda Nunes versus Chris Cyborg was scheduled for UFC 232 in December 2018. The fight, which put two of the greatest fighters of all time against one another, lived up to the expectation and did not let anyone down. Nunes connected with a massive overhand right that pushed Cyborg into the shadow world, delivering one of the most terrifying strikes ever seen in women's MMA. Nunes had studied Cyborg's left jab like a book and immediately responded with a big right, leaving the viewers stunned all over the world. It was only Cyborg's second defeat in her professional career, and she hasn't lost any fight since. However, she only competed once more in the UFC, perhaps because she realized she might not have a chance to reclaim her featherweight title as long as Nunes and her legendary strength remained in the picture, despite Juliana Peña's recent demonstration that Nunes is not unbeatable. So it's uncertain if Cyborg will ever be persuaded to accept the top promotion again. The next fighter is Holm, whose knockout was one of the biggest surprises in all of MMA. At this point, Ronda Rousey's meteoric rise to fame was coming to a stop. After years of dominating the whole Strikeforce and UFC roster, Rousey faced Holm at UFC 193 in 2015, and the preacher's daughter displayed tremendous toughness. Still, Rousey did not fight as expected, so she decided to pursue a professional boxer, which of course left openings in her defense that Holm was able to effectively exploit. Rousey tried to attack Holm in the second round, but she stumbled after getting clipped on the way in. Rousey regained her feet as Holm launched a perfect head kick that landed softly on the side of her head. Holm immediately jumped on her, after which she sent her straight to the canvas, and before referee Herb Dean could even respond, Holm delivered a couple of punches. Now as we continue, here is another Jessica Andrade knockout at UFC in 2019. This was genuinely horrifying and reminded people of Ricardo Arona's Rampage Jackson knockout. The strawweight queen, Rose Namajunas, fought Jessica, who was also recognized for her incredible strength, as we previously mentioned. In the second round of this title match, Jessica grabbed Rose by locking in one leg, but Rose chose to raise her into the air like a rag doll and slam her down on her head instead of being taken down as many would have anticipated. The champion was knocked out by the slam as she fell on the back of her neck, and Jessica Andrade was named the new strawweight champion. Unfortunately for the Brazilian, her reign as champion was short-lived because she faced the dreadful Zhang Weili in her subsequent match. Don't move, because Viviane Araujo is coming up next. The fact that this knockout didn't come from a fighter who was particularly well-known or well-liked may have given some people the temptation to disregard it. At UFC 237 in 2019, Viviane Araujo faced fellow Brazilian Thalita Bernardo in her very first professional bout. The knockout would be the end of Bernardo's UFC career. In the third round of the battle, Araujo struck Bernardo with an overhand right that was identical to Nunes's and thoroughly flushed her opponent's face. The referee intervened to avoid Bernardo from suffering any further damage, so the referee instantly signaled off the fight, and it was a scary knockout. Last but not least is Ronda Rousey. Ronda used to simply armbar everybody who came her way, but at UFC 190 when she faced Bethe Correia, she decided to liven things up and put the Brazilian challenger under real pressure. Rousey teed off on Correia in the opening round of her 6th championship defense when she had her pinned up against the fence. According to commentator Joe Rogan, she threw 2 powerful left hooks that knocked the opponent back before delivering a quick right to the temple that knocked Correia out. Ronda won her 12th match in a row, and Correia, who had provided very little defense, face-planted to the floor. It was maybe her most dominant performance in the UFC, but it was also the last time Rousey triumphed in the competition. She faced Holm and potential women's champion Amanda Nunes in her subsequent 2 fights, both of which she lost by knockout. What are your thoughts on these KOs in women's UFC? Please let us know in the comments section. Don't forget to subscribe to Combat Recap, then hit the notification bell to be notified of future videos. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.